Hello everyone. It's been a minute. A good few months since I uploaded anything to my channel, and not nearly as long since I did any kind of streaming to either YouTube or to Twitch. By the way, you should go and sub to my YouTube and follow my Twitch. It would go a long way to help me out. Just saying. I'll keep this brief. A lot of shit has happened over the past month or so. None of it good. There was a lot of crying, panic attack or 3, and lots of trauma, both emotional and mental. But I'm doing better, for the most part, and I've decided to start trying to record more content for my channel. I've gotten more space on my computer, and a capture card from when I started streaming. With that said, most of my content, if not all of it, is going to be recorded from my PlayStation from, well, for the time being, basically. And what better way to mend mental health than with FromSoft's most recent addition to the Soulsborne franchise, Elden Ring. Without further ado, let the lands between be blessed by our presence. Or cursed. Your call. So, going into character creation, I had no idea what I wanted to do as far as a challenge run. I mean, I'm doing a region lock, but it needs something extra. I had ideas, but they were too painful or too difficult of a run to start with. Then it hit me. We'll see challenge runs of people using only sorceries to beat the game. Challenging enough, but I feel like it's still a touch too easy for what I'm wanting to do. We need something that hasn't been done, or at the very least hasn't been done in bulk before. After thinking on it for a minute, came up with this idea for just Glintstone Pebble only. Now, before anyone goes into the comments and unloads a wall of text, I did look into it. There are only 3 videos that refer to Glintstone Pebble in the title, another one that implies it, and another that just refers to the Ash of War. From there, it's just sorcery runs. So, I chose the Astrologer class, chose the Lands Between rune as my starting gift, and named our character appropriately. Nice. That's nice. As soon as we spawn in, I remove the sword and the shield, I grab this lady's finger for some reason, and went outside to touch some grass. Too bad there wasn't much to begin with. Well, hello there, sir. Oh, shit. Okay, don't get hit. Got it. I did a bit more damage to it before making a totally, on purpose, tactical retreat off the cliff behind me. That I totally knew was there, and didn't mean to roll off of. Yep, totally meant to do it. After waking up, I made the choice to jump into the hole of knowledge. To do a few things. Remove Glintstone Arc, because I'm not going to use it, and to kill the Soldier of God, Rick. While I trudge my way through to the Soldier of God, Rick. I'm gonna go over the rules of the run. Firstly, we're region locked. We're not allowed to leave the area, that being Limgrave, until certain conditions are met. To leave Limgrave, I need to have killed 75% of all the bosses in the area. The reason for this is simple. The Grafted Scion can't be reached until I get into Liurnia, so he's off the table until then. The Crucible Knight will most certainly obliterate me within seconds of me even entering that fight. I'm too much of a chicken shit to even try to fight the Bellbearing Hunter, and I'm certainly not about to fight my way through a dungeon's defense mechanism just so I can fight a tree at the very bottom of it, only for that tree to throw a temper tantrum because he's starting to fight me. Secondly, I'm only allowed to use Glintstone Pebble to do damage. I can use support sorceries, but all my damage must come from Glintstone Pebble. There will be a few bosses that I will use other methods to kill, but generally Glintstone Pebble is going to be my magic bullet. Lastly, no fast travel. That means I have to run everywhere I go. When I want to go to Round Table Hold, I need to rest at a site of grace, and then use the map to travel there. When I'm done at the hold, I need to do the same thing and go back to the grace I rested at originally. Now that I've bored you to tears with all of my nonsense, we can go back to our regularly scheduled bullshit. As far as the trash in the dungeon, they're pretty easy going. But by this point, I decided it was a waste of mana just to keep killing these guys, and I didn't really think to go back to the site of grace to adjust my flask. So I just ran to the boss room instead. Now we face the Soldier of God, Rick. Four hits. Not even close. With that out of the way, we can finally go to the Church of Ella. While on the way there, this just happens. For some reason, 2 NPCs somewhere out in the world, maybe birds I think, just die for absolutely no reason whatsoever. That is the only NPCs that I can think of that would actually legitimately die for no reason and give me that low amount of runes. I guess that bit about being a curse on the land between was the right one, I guess. Once we get to the church, I pop the gift rune, and realize I can't level without having talked to Melina. 'Cause I'm a dipshit. Back out into the wilds we go, I guess.
Summon me. I bequeath. Use it.
Now that we have Torrent and leveling available, we rush back to the Church of Ella. While I was there, I decided to trigger the Ronnie event to get the Spirit Summoning Bell for in case of emergency moments. Most enemies and bosses are okay to fight, but there are the occasional enemies that will dodge on cast, so having something that can distract them or even stun them will be helpful. And as far as leveling goes, I'm not good at it. I'm not great at making builds, and I've come up with probably the dumbest system for leveling. I refer to it as the 4-3-2-1 method. Basically, the main stat will get 4 levels to it. The second stat will get 3, the third stat gets 2, and the last stat gets 1. It guarantees 10 levels, and helps with keeping track of what I need to level up next. For this run, it's intelligence, mind, vigor, and stamina in that order of more important to least important. Though this is subject to change under the right circumstances. Being that this is the first time leveling with this character, it goes straight into intelligence. And surprisingly, it's enough runes to get 4 levels out of it exactly. Not bad, but it's not great either. Looking at the staff, it's got C scaling, and it doesn't offer any buffs of any kind to help increase damage in any way. So we need to get out there and get some upgraded materials so we can do more damage. We wait until morning. I grab the smithy stone from the Church of Ella. I run to this hole to pick up the smithy stone from there. I run along the south side of the lake to get to the side of Grace, run up the hill across from the road to get to the graveyard for its runes, leap down the Spirit Spring into Mistwood, and then head south to go to the graveyard there. After looting it for all the runes, we go to Fort Height for the Grace, the Golden Seed, the half of the medallion, and the smithy stone found in the fortress. And almost die in the process. Not even close. From there, we go to the Mistwood ruins to open this chest for the smithy 2, and grab this rune off to the side of the runes. Lots of runes involved. We make our way to the minor Erd tree to pick up the seers, and a handful of sunflowers while we're there. We go and grab the map fragment, and nab this cookbook sitting next to this rune bear. Surprisingly, he doesn't aggro onto us, so I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouse. Mouse, mouth. We make our way to the Church of Marika for the Physic, the Sacred Tear, and then, stepping outside, we go to this hole in the cliff over here. Ah, okay then. We rush into the melee to grab the smithy 2 from in the middle of all of that, and then book it to the Spirit Spring to get away from the massacre and move on to the next location. From there, we go to Summonwater Village to pick up the smithy, head westward towards the bridge to grab the smithies there, and then run back into Summonwater to go to this specific cliff and drop down with no problems. There's a graveyard there that has plenty of runes for us to pick up as well, and it's a good segue spot for us to get over to the Fever Cookbook, which is also in another graveyard. By the way, this dragonfly here tries to come after us, but it can't make the jump for some reason, and it just ends up falling off. And, yeah, that happens. From there, we run to the Artist Shack to pick up the smithy stones from there. After that, I run to the Agel Bridge to grab the smithies from there before running northward to hit the Spirit Spring that takes me to the Trolls. We bother one of them enough into helping us break a small statue and make a break for it afterwards with 5 smithy 1s and a smithy 2, leaving the troll to take the blame for all the damage it's done. Yes, teacher, this one over here. We get to the next graveyard, loot it for all the runes it's got, and then head to Stormhill Shack to get the Stone Sword key and to talk with Roderica. Almost done, guys. Almost done. We go to the Ring of Chairs over here to snatch the smithy stone from them, then run back to the road to grab the Golden Seed. After that, we make our way down the road to grab the other map fragments and the whetstone knife. Probably not going to use this unless I'm absolutely aiming for something specific, but it's nice to have it on hand just in case. Now that we have everything, we can go back to the church to level, upgrade, and prep for everything ahead of us. We sell our bounty to Kale, as well as a random rune fragment that I apparently picked up along the way, and earned about 18,316 runes. I upgraded the staff, upgraded my flask, mixed the physic, and then leveled up. Our staff is now at B scaling, and we have 4 more levels invested into intelligence. We should be doing more damage, right? Well, sort of. So good news, there's ways to increase the damage of the spell. Bad news, most, if not all, are going to be in Liurnia. All of the talismans and the staff that I think will benefit this run the most is found there. So it's going to be rough going until I can clear Weeping Peninsula. Good feelings gone. Well, we may as well start killing things won't be able to get to him otherwise. And kill we shall, because the first boss I went to was the Beastman of Faramazula. It's not bad. Small flaw does appear with this, though. See, if a boss has erratic movements with them, you have a good chance of missing them entirely. That'll be something to watch out for. Outside of that, though, we put the beast down and move on to the next boss. I decided to go after the Burial Watchdog because, well, I mean, it's the Burial Watchdog. Getting through the dungeon was absolutely no sweat whatsoever. We're able to kill the imps faster than they can actually close the gap to us, and if they do manage to close the gap, they fall over literally as they get to us. Part of me wanted to stay behind and farm for the imp mask that drops because it does something with your intelligence, but I decided against it. As for the watchdog, nothing interesting happened. I don't even think it got into phase 2 before dying. After killing our third boss, it's time to go and try our hand at everyone's favorite tree hugger. That's right, I took on the Tree Sentinel. This fight was tricky for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the shield. He can reflect our spells back at us. With that said, he is constantly moving. It took a bit of time, but I realized that his attacks have very, very long recovery time. Longer than I thought, if I'm being honest. And I decided that that's when I can get my hits in, when he's winding down from his attacks. So we bait out attacks and hit him while we can. I did almost die a few times during this fight, once because I got a little cocky and got too close to him, and again I got too cocky and almost died to the shield reflecting my spell. Twice. But with enough patience and plenty of mana, we were able to bring the Tree Sentinel down and dismount him for good. Wait, now it's about this time that I get pulled away for something, and afterwards, I was able to come back and continue my boss hunt. I decided to fight the Mad Pumpkinhead because, well, punishment and pain, I guess. If you've not fought the Mad Pumpkinhead before, or you've never had an issue fighting him, well, the Pumpkinhead itself reduces the damage that he takes by a lot, as long as you hit him in the head. The lock-on function always targets his upper body, which is always hidden behind this massive pumpkin head of his. The only way for us to do damage to him is to free aim it, which I'm terrible at, or to get behind him and cast a spell when he's winding down from an attack. After a little bit of time, Pumpkinhead went down. After winning that fight, I decided I needed to go pick a fight with the Stone Diggers. These guys are a pain in the ass to fight with a melee build. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that because they take so much magic damage. Pretty much everything in here I was one-shotting. Except for the mice. The mice needed to. Eventually I did get down to where the Stone Digger Troll was at, and it's about this time I get pulled away before I even open the doors to the boss fight. Now, it's about at this point that I make the ultimate mistake. See, this was the second time I was pulled away from my recording, and while this was supposed to only be a 2-hour recording session, turned into a 3-hour recording session instead. By the time I got back to the game, I was already a bit miffed, and mainly because it was taking longer than I wanted to for the recording to be done. And that's about when I made the mistake. I forgot to press record. So, as a result of my mistake, I am missing 30 minutes of footage, and a total of 4 boss fights. That's right, in blissful ignorance, I went and killed 4 bosses without having pressed record. As soon as I realized that had happened, I immediately stopped everything and went and wrote down everything that happened from coming back to the Stone Digger Troll boss fight to now. So, during that missing time, I went and killed the Stone Digger Troll. The guy takes a lot of magic damage, and he really didn't get any hits in on me. The only time he actually ever did damage to me was when he turned the entire arena into a hitbox. But outside of that, it really wasn't that too interesting of a fight. After that, I teleported back up to the entrance of the mine, mounted up on Torrent, and started running towards the ramp up. Now, I am bad about being distracted. I got distracted around this point, and I wandered a little too close to the bonfire in the middle of the lake. Those of you that knows what happens when you get too close to this bonfire, kudos to you. Those of you that don't know, this spawns a dragon. A fire-breathing dragon. Now I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really intending to fight a dragon in this run, especially this one, so early on. Maybe down the road I would have thought about doing it, but no, this early on was not on my plans. But I kind of figured it was worth a shot. And what a shot it was. He took some moderate damage from our spell, but getting hit in the head is what really did the damage to him. With that said, I had run out of mana, and I didn't have any more flasks because I burned through them all fighting the Stone Diggers and the Troll. So I ran to the gate front side of Grace and went back to bullying the dragon with full flask this time. Miguel didn't really stand too much of a chance against Glintstone Pebble, apparently, so yeah, that was a thing. From there, I got Bach out of his twiggy situation, visited Kale for the finger snap and the crafting kit, and went to fight the demi-humans. I did summon Istvarn to help with the fight with them, mainly because he's tankier than I am, and if he can keep their attention, I can certainly get the damage in. At one point, I did almost die because the one was really super hyper-aggressive on me, and it was kind of just not fun. But thanks to Istvarn, I was able to bring down the demi-humans with no problem. I went back to Bach, gave him his mother's needle, and went on my merry way to go deal with another boss. But not before paying the good boy a visit and getting him off the roof. Me and Blyde fought Darwill, and honestly, not much to say. Now, it is at this point, after the boss fight, I realized that I wasn't recording. So, yeah. This is something I didn't want happening. But it happened anyways. Moving on. After doing some damage control with that minor disaster that happened, and the hopes that I would never ever do that again, knowing I probably would at some point, I moved on to try and put Patches in his place. Never mind, I'm fighting this fucking thing instead. And the issues of fighting human-sized NPCs rears its ugly head. And against Neregus, an enemy with twin Reduvias, this was awful. Took your ages to spawn in to help me, and I nearly died several times as a result. Again, the NPC had to help me out with this fight by keeping them distracted. But with Yura's help and enough casting, we were able to bring the spastic slice and dice down. Bullshit out of the way, we go back to making Patches into Emergent. Patches was nowhere near as difficult as Neregus was. The man tried to use the spray stuff on me, but I caught him between casts of it, and after a few seconds of casting, Patches surrenders. I would have recorded more of this, but, like I said, I've been sitting here for 3 hours. It was late, I was tired, and I had my kid with me. She wanted to do a lot of things the next day, and I needed to be rested for it. That aside, I had killed quite a handful of bosses this go-around, and honestly, I don't have much left to go before I can go to Weeping Peninsula. The goal is about 16 to 17 of these bosses, and Limgrave has like 22, including the Grafted Scion that we failed to fight earlier. I'm not exactly what all bosses I'm going to be facing in the next run. I have a few ideas of them, but outside of that, really isn't much there. If you guys would like to keep up with this challenge run, or just to keep up with my content in general, hit that subscribe button, click the like button, and if you guys want to see me do a specific challenge run in the future, by all means, tell me in the comments below. But outside of that, hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in the next part.